Hi, thank you for joining me for today's process video, and today is another day in 30 Days of Sketches with Christie's Beautiful Life. It's day 13 and today's sketch you can see in the top left hand corner there is by Melinda Barkman. So I've pulled out my Arden Creatives Hidden Creek collection. This is a new collection designed by Katie Petite. Arden Creative are a brand new British company and Katie's jumped on board with them. So this is her first collection and it's sold really well. The papers come in a paper pad and then you get loads of different embellishments to go with it. So I looked at the sketch and saw those hexagons, and initially I thought I was going to pull out my hexagon punch, but when I saw this paper I thought with all those beautiful filigree elements on the background, I thought that would be really nice to emulate those hexagons. I'm going to add my title down the side, and if you can see, I don't know how clearly you can see because it's a pencil sketch, it looks like there are some edged pieces where the title sits on, which is what I'm just creating now. And then there's a bottom right hand 3x4 photo or journaling, so I'm actually going to use that as a cluster. So you'll see again I'm just gleaning inspiration from the sketch rather than following it closely. I don't like the look of a photo sitting so high up on a layout generally, so I've moved mine down a little bit, just personal preference. I think some people do it brilliantly, but it's just not for me and my album, so that's why I've got my photo sitting a little bit lower. So you can see there I just pulled out the scraps that I had left over from my previous layout to cut these strips to go down the left hand side. Beautiful papers, double-sided. I went for the darker greens and then this paler one to sit on top of them, and then my photo has just been matted on a thin layer of white cardstock just to create a differential between the photo and the busy background. So I'm just sticking these strips together, but I'm not actually going to stick them onto the background yet because I want to add some white acrylic paint behind the photo just to fade out that background, which is very busy. So I'm just adding a pencil mark here so that I know where the photo sits, and then it's just cheap white acrylic paint, and I'm using my brayer just to smudge that over the background where the photo is going to go, and I just want it to bleed out around the edges of the photo. Like I say, just to give that photo more prominence. It's a very busy background, so by doing this you're sort of making the photo shine, really creating a halo around the edge of it. So it's very subtle, as you can see. Just going to add a little bit more and then leave that to dry. It dries ever so quickly because it's a very thin layer, so it's not really a problem. Almost there. So this photo is Amelia and one of her best friends, Caitlin, and they both do graphics at A-level. So they're at a sixth form college, they're both 17. They're in their second year, and their brief this weekend was to go out and take photos of various things. So Caitlin's brief was to get photos of geese and swans, and Amelia's was to get photos of statues. So the statues in Warrington is relatively easy. We've got quite a few statues. We've got Lewis Carroll is buried in Warrington, and we've got a statue of the Mad Hatter's Tea Party in our town centre, so she had that. We've also got a statue of Oliver Cromwell, who came through the town, and various other statues that she managed to get photos of. The geese and swans normally hang out down by the rowing club, which is fairly close to our house, so they went down there, and sure enough they found the geese, and they'd read into it, and apparently you're not supposed to feed geese and swans bread, so they took some peas, which is apparently their preference. So Caitlin's there with their little bag of frozen peas that they were feeding to the geese so they could get their photos. I just love this photo and I really wanted to document it. So you can see there it's sitting on top of that white halo of paint, and I've got those strips down on the left hand side. This was just an offcut from where I matted the photo onto one of those papers, and I thought it would work really nicely as a little tag behind the photo, so I'm just popping that in there, and I've used my what's it called, the hole punch crocodile, to put a small hole in the top of that tag so I can add some thread later. So these thickers are from Cedar House from American Crafts. I remember the name this time. And I'm just adding this title that says Best Friends. So again, in the sketch you can see the title goes down the left hand side of the page, so that's what I'm doing with this, and that fits really nicely along that edge. So there it is. It's just a foam title there, and then this is the twine that I mentioned I was going to bring in. So you may have seen me using quite a bit of this green twine recently, and I've got a confession. I was making some page kits with it and I accidentally cut it in half, and it should have been left as a whole piece. So I think I've got about 30 pieces of this twine pre-cut, but it's the perfect size. It's 18 inches and it works really nicely on layouts like this. So that's what that piece is. So I just used my tiny attacher to staple it in a couple of places, and I just peeled up that mat to staple it onto rather than going right the way through to the back of the layout. So that worked out well. So now I'm moving to my bottom right hand corner, and I'm just creating a cluster here. So I've got a Viewmaster reel that I cut from craft cardstock. That's one of our Hey Little Magpie exclusive dies there that I cut from a piece of craft cardstock. And then I've also got these fern leaves, which are in sort of a bluey green. I've just thrown off to the right hand side there, and they were cut from the die that comes with this Arden Creative Collection. So they look really nice, and I used it was an old piece of 49er market paper which Katie Petite used to design, so it all blends beautifully together. The colours worked well. I also used, you can see in my little white tray there, that's a JD 3D print tray, that other leaf in the same bluey green, and that's cut from one of our Hey Little Magpie exclusive dies. It's the long stem leaves. So all of these are going to layer up really nicely together into that bottom cluster. So I've pulled in one of the tags from the ephemera pack and some of the other leaves, and a lovely title that says Seek and Find, Explore Your World. So I'm going to add that to the bottom as well. So they're two separate pieces. Explore Your World is a separate piece from the Seek and Find. I also found that Check It Out wood piece that is going to sit at the bottom of the photo. I keep moving it around, and then there's a little banner that says This is the Best Day, which is also going to go at the bottom right hand corner of that photo. So just messing around, trying to get everything in place before I stick it down. I'm also going to bring in some bits and pieces from Hey Little Magpie, some of the little embroidered flowers and things you'll see me adding soon, and a flare badge that says Wild and Free from a previous collection. I used to design a lot of flair to match collections that came out. I've just not had time recently. I must get back onto that because I really enjoyed doing that. So here's that long stemmed leaf that I mentioned that I'd die cut using the Hey Little Magpie die. And I'm really pleased with how that cluster worked out. Lots of different textures, lots of different layers, and that's what makes the layout for me. So just tucking things in, just adding a bit of wet glue to get them into place. And now working on those bits at the bottom corner of the photo. I thought about this Lily of the Valley floral piece, but that didn't stay there in the end. So just adding those two title pieces down, or word pieces I should say. So here's that flare that I mentioned, and the colour is just perfect. It was to match one of the Simple Stories collections from a couple of years ago. But it just works really nicely with these colours, and obviously the sentiment Wild and Free works perfectly too. So I'm just going to add a little bit of tangled twine behind that. So just some black sewing thread. It'll sit neatly. Gosh, I nearly had a heart attack when I saw that all that glue on there, and then it pinged out of my hands and onto the photo. Luckily it landed glue side up, so I didn't have to reprint the photo, but that would have been a little bit annoying. So here are those bits and pieces that I was mentioning. These are all sold at Hey Little Magpie in bits and pieces packs. I love those new florals that we've got in. They're embroidered flowers with little stems, and they're so sweet. So I'm just adding one of those to the right hand side of the title, and I've got some other little embroidered flowers adding in various places, and that lovely faux leather love heart going there. And then I'm just grabbing some of the ribbon trims. These are trims that quite often go into the embellishment kits that we sell monthly at Hey Little Magpie. So I've got that lovely, it's almost like a grosgrain with a stitched edge, and then this gingham in grey, and they're just going to be added to that right hand side of the photo. Just bringing in other little bits and pieces. This is another embroidered flower. And then this tab I thought would work nicely at the top of the photo here. So I'm just starting to build up that top left-hand corner. So you can see again, I've got a diagonal strip going on from top left to bottom right, building up height on the top left of that photo using tags and tabs and little tucky bits. So I'm going to add a tab in craft just to mimic that craft that I've got at the bottom right hand corner, and that will hold my date, which was 8th of March. It was this Saturday just gone. So just popping that up there. Another little flower. I love these embroidered flowers, and the texture that they bring to the layout is just gorgeous. And then that's another little heart from the ephemera pack. I thought would work nicely there. And then this word piece, I put it down there. I was going to put it down there, and then I saw that tab at the top, and I thought, oh, I can stick it there. So it went up the top. Sometimes these things just happen. Another floral. And then I'm going to come in with my journaling, and I'm just going to write exactly the story that I told you about, how they had to do this for graphics. So now coming in with my date to go on that top craft tab. So just stamping it onto scrap white cardstock, cutting it out and then gluing it onto that craft. It just makes it stand out. Makes it a feature rather than blending into the background. I've got this little heart clip in gold that I just love. We had these in an embellishment box recently, and so I just thought I'd add that as an accent to that tag on the left-hand side. And then I saw this little green butterfly, and I thought as they're outside, that would be nice. I'd cut this from the large scalloped border dies from Hey Little Magpie. I just had a scrap of paper left and thought I would die cut it, but when I saw it on my desk, I thought that would work really nicely there on the left-hand side. I may go back in and add some stitching to that actually to hold it in place, just as a bit of a feature. I haven't done that yet, but just looking at it, I think that might look really nice. And then these are the rub-ons that come with this collection, and these are incredible. You get 2 sheets of 2 designs, so 4 sheets in total, and they're very reasonable, very reasonably priced. So these are the little paint chips that Katie used to do for 49 a market, and they're in this collection as well. So I'm just adding those to the right-hand side of the photo, and then I find a little scripty piece that I'm just going to layer over those, just to add a little bit more interest around the photo on that already busy background paper. And they just sort of blend into the background. You can barely tell, but it's just adding extra interest. So that's that done. I'm going to see what else I can find. So grab the other sheet and find this green floral piece or leafy piece, and I think that will work nicely next to that cluster in the bottom right hand corner, just to sort of blend it out into the background to make it all as one, if you like. So I add that there. While I'm doing this, don't forget to check the description box down below to see the playlist of everybody who's joining in on 30 Days of Sketches. I do try and remember to say that in every video. It's really important that you give the creators your support. We all work hard on this series and really enjoy it, so it's nice to know that people are watching as well. So I spotted this golden butterfly and I thought that would work nicely in this cluster as well. You saw I put it at the top first of all, above the cluster, but I wanted to keep that diagonal line that I've got, so I wanted to keep everything fairly tight to the bottom, and that's why I moved it down to where I ended up putting it on the page. So that one there. And then these are the stamps that come with this collection. This is the last bit on the layout now. So I just grab and finger stamp using the little paint splotches and my Rustic Wilderness stamp pad, and I'm just adding this in various places around the page. Again, it just blends into the background. You can't tell that it's been stamped on. It's really subtle, but it's just adding a little bit more interest to that. As I say, already very busy background. You can tell I'm not used to working on a pattern paper background, can't you? But I did thoroughly enjoy it, actually. It was nice. And again, it was the inspiration from this sketch that made me reach for this paper. So these sketches really are great to get the creative juices flowing rather than just doing the same thing time and time again. So I shall stop rambling now. Thank you so much for joining me. I shall see you again soon. Bye.